All right.
Okay, my name is John Liver Eating Johnson.
Is it liver eating?
Yes.
Okay.
There are legends around the campfires of mountain men of the Rocky Mountains that I have eaten 300 crow livers, and I'm not talking about the blackbirds neither. Now, whether that's true or not, I'm not confirming nor denying that. I will let you make up your own mind. I was born John Garrison in 1824 in McLean County, New Jersey. I grew up there, and by the 1840s, I found myself, during the Mexican-American War, I found myself in the United States Navy. Now, I found out while I was in the Navy that the Navy did not appreciate common seamen accosting the officers of the ship. They didn't like that in at all. As a matter of fact, what they wanted to do was put me in irons and throw me in the brig. Can you believe that? A fine fella like me, they wanted to throw in the brig. Well, I decided that was not going to happen. So what I did is I jumped ship, and I ended up in the Wyoming, Montana area. Now this is the 1840s, and the prime beaver trapping was already over with, but there was still some trapping to be done. But what I did is that technology was coming west, and the technology of the day was the steamboat. So I figured out real quick that if I took and got me a lot on the riverbank, and I took and chopped down trees and corded that wood up and drug it to the riverbank, that them riverboat captains needed wood to make steam, so they'd pay me for the wood. Well, that's what I did. I hired me a bunch of guys, and they corded up that wood and we drug it to the riverbank. And when the riverboats would come up or go down the river, they needed wood, they'd stop at my wood lot, fill up their wood boxes in the wood of the ship, put the money in a knot hole I had in the cottonwood tree, and off they'd go. Well, I was very successful at that. As a matter of fact, I made enough money to where I could buy me some horses, and I bought me a flathead chief's daughter for my wife. I built me a cabin in the woods, and we went out there, and I did some trapping and did my wood hawking. And in this one winter, me and my friend Dale Gew decided we'd do some trapping. So we went off trapping and came back in a couple months, and a crow hunting party had come by, and they killed my wife and unborn baby. Well, that did not make me happy at all. As a matter of fact, I was kind of mad about that. So what I did is after I'd taken their skeletons and put them in a clay pot and put them up in a secluded place and put stones around them so the coyotes and stuff wouldn't get to them, I took off and I went after that crow hunting party, and I caught up with them, and I scalped them, and I cut out their very liver. I cut out their liver with this very knife right here. And you know why I did that?
Better than that.
I cut out their liver and I ate it. And the reason I did that is because in the Crow religion, they believe if you ain't got your liver, you ain't going to heaven. Well, I didn't want none of them pesky little varmints going to heaven. So anyway, so I got them all, and the Crow chief, he sent out another hunting party, did the same thing. So he decided, well, this ain't working. So what he did was he got the whole Crow Nation together. And he said, all right, fellas, this is the way it's going to be. said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send my mama through, and she's going to pick out the best 20 warriors, and you ain't coming back to the Crow Nation until you bring me Liver-Eating Johnson's scalp and put it in my hand. Well, none of them came back to the Crow Nation because I still got my scalp. Well, they was just like ninjas. They was all over the place. For 14 years I was putting up with them pesky little varmints. Every time I'd turn around, one of them would come up and want to kill me. Well, I dispatched all 20 of them. And after I did that, the old Crow chief, he decided, well, I've had enough of this. This is not a money-making deal. Well, because of the fact that I dispatched all of his 20 best warriors and a few other things, we became friends, and we buried the hatchet and smoked a peace pipe, and we was friends from then on. Now, while all this was going on, I had some more adventures, and this adventure I want to tell you about, I call my Blackfoot adventure. Well, you know, I told you I had some flathead kin. Well, I took some of the money that I'd made by selling wood, and I bought me 3 barrels of whiskey and 2 mules, and I was taking it to my Blackfoot relatives. Going to sell that whiskey to make some money. Well, what happened was them Blackfeet got me. Now the Blackfeet, they was the meanest bunch in the mountains. They didn't like nobody. They didn't get along with none. Well, they got me, stole my whiskey, stole my mules, stripped me down to my waist, and tied me up with these rawhide thongs and carried me off to their village. And what they was going to do was they was negotiating with the Crow to ransom me to the Crow so the Crow could get my scalp. Well, I didn't think that was such a good idea at all. I didn't like that idea none. Well, at that time, there was a celebration going on. They had some kind of holiday, and the whole village was out celebrating, and all they had was one inexperienced brave in a teepee guarding me, just about this young man's age and this young man's size, you know. But he is I can look in his eyes, and I can tell he's a lot smarter than that Blackfoot. I can tell that. But anyway, so what I did was I took and I chewed through them rawhide thongs and got my hands free, and I took that brave's knife and I killed him and I cut off his leg. Now here it is in the middle of the winter time, and I got nothing on but my skivvies and this Blackfoot leg, and I got 200 miles to go downriver to my friend Dale Hughes' cabin, so I can get me, you know, so that's my first refuge. Well, I take off, and about 50 miles downriver, I come up across this cave. I see this cave, and I said, well, that might be a good place to stop and kind of warm up. So I get in the cave, and I got this frozen, now by this time this Blackfoot leg's frozen solid. And what I didn't know was that cave was the home of a mountain lion. Yeah. So I'm in there trying to get warm, and the mountain lion comes home, and he don't like that I'm in his house. And he's a snarling and a snatching at me. So what I did was I took that Blackfoot leg and I whopped him on the head with it. And I knocked him out. And I skinned him. And that way I had me a mountain lion coat, and I could take, I took that Blackfoot leg and the rest of that mountain lion, and that's what I lived on. And all I got left is that Blackfoot leg right there. But anyway, so I made it down to my friend Dale Hughes' cabin, and he was mighty glad to see me. He thought I'd been dead. Well, right after that, in 1862, I enlisted in the Union Army in the Colorado Volunteers. Well, they wouldn't let me carry my hawking rifle that I'd carried in the mountains for years and years and years. They made me carry an old government piece of junk that I didn't after the first battle, I threw it down on the ground and picked me up a Confederate flintlock muzzle loader that I used for the rest of the war. Well, in 1865, I was discharged and I went to Red Cloud, Montana. I became the deputy sheriff of Red Cloud, Montana. Well, there was a circus. Well, my little buddy just ran off. Oh well. There was a circus there, and there was 4 boys, just a little smaller than this young man right here, and they was looking through this knothole into the circus, and I yelled, "Hey boys!" And one of them seen I was the sheriff, and boy, he beat Pete like a scalded owl. And them other 3, they come up and seen what I wanted, and so what I did was I took my great coat and I put it around them, and all 3 of us went into the circus, and we had a big time. Now, to this very day, that young man that run off to his mama when I said, "Hey boys," regrets that he did that and didn't get to go to the circus.
I guess he's gonna regret.
He's regretting it. He's the one that run off. Well, by 1899, I was getting pretty old, and I was too old to be deputy sheriff anymore. So I ended up in the Los Angeles Veterans Home in Santa Monica, California. You know what's significance about Santa Monica, California? That's where Route 66 ends. Well, on January the 21st, 1900, I died. So in just a few more days, I will have been dead 118 years. So that's my story, and I got this nickel. You can keep it, throw it in the creek, start a fire with it, whatever you want to do. And thank you very much for listening to my story.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And have fun at Trappers.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.